is saying to me, live on custom live
Great.
stream service.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't have my glasses on, everyone couldn't read it. Okay, welcome everyone. Yeah, I know. Paul and I have just been talking about glasses and light. I would be wearing my glasses, but the light is reflected. So welcome everyone to Conversations with Carole. I have got my wonderful guest, Paul Wilson. Say hello, Paul.
Hello, Paul. Good morning.
Today we are coming to you via Restream, and we're streaming live onto my LinkedIn page, well, my LinkedIn profile, two of my Facebook pages, my YouTube channel, and Twitter. So we're connecting with over 30,000 people. So if you are joining us live, please come along and say hello. You're going to have to put your name when you say hello into the chat so we know who you are. And if you've got any questions at all, then please let us know. So Paul today is going to talk to us about the Devil's Triangle. Now, when he spoke to me about this, boy, did my interest, light up. I wanted to know everything about it. But I thought, well, why don't you come on and tell us all? Because I'm sure there are lots of people out there who want to understand this. So, Paul, before we get into the Devil's Triangle, could you just tell us, give us 60 or 90 seconds about your background?
I'll give you 91 seconds about my background, okay. Carole. Thanks for inviting me, by the way. So I spent 25 years in the corporate world working for a major transportation organization, and the last couple of years I've been put into a role that wasn't really my thing, because I'm an operations guy. It's broken, go and fix it, stop things going wrong, all that kind of stuff. And the new role was sort of like 2 steps back from operations, and I gave it my best shot, but it wasn't working. Anyway, I had an Independence Day. The Americans have got July the 4th. I have October the 3rd. I was cycling to work on October the 3rd in the morning, and I got knocked off my bicycle. And I broke a bone here and a bone here, so either side of my elbow, and I was incapacitated because I'm right-handed, and it hurt like hell. So I couldn't even type, I couldn't write. So I was signed off for 6 weeks. During that 6 weeks, it was like, do I stay? Do I go? Do I make the rest of the world miserable and make myself miserable, or do I jump ship and try something completely new? End of 6 weeks, still undecided, no idea what to do. So I'm back in the office, and after a long absence, you've got to fight your way through the post and get the door open and try and get the computer going and all this kind of stuff. And I'm in the middle of all this, and the head of HR walks past my front door and goes, "Hi, Paul, how's the arm?" I go, "Hi, Nick, it's great." And to this day, I don't know where this next phrase came from, but out of my mouth came, "Have you got a minute?" And he went, "Yeah, come round to my office." So went round to his office. Long story short, about 4 weeks later, on the exact day of my 25th anniversary, I was out. Yeah, and I thought I was going to go into photography. We were talking about that briefly before we went live. And I very quickly realized that every man, dog, cat, budgerigar with one of these calls themselves a photographer. So the bottom has kind of like fallen out of the photography market. And I spoke to quite a few professionals. They said, "Look, Paul, go for it, but it's going to be, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9 years before you start making any real money." And I thought, oh, that's going to be a slog. And I love photography, and I don't want to turn it into a slog. So I thought, I'll keep that as my hobby. Spent 2018 doing stuff, having adventures. I did a social dynamics course, did a 15-week stand-up comedy course, took on a personal trainer, did all kinds of things. And then I kind of fell in love again with hypnosis, because I'd always had this fascination for the mind and neuroscience. I was a big fan of Uri Geller, the guy that bent school.
Yeah.
Until he got outed, until I realized it was just fake. And I was like so disappointed, but that didn't dim my interest. But I could never get into hypnosis and that kind of stuff as a career way back then, because like you had to learn pages and pages and pages and pages of scripts. And that's not me. I'm not a script kind of guy. And then I found something that is dead simple, really, really intuitive. And it kind of like me and it just gelled.
Yeah.
I thought, this is it. This is my thing. And so now what I do is I become a coach, and I, where necessary, integrate all that learning in from 2018 and onwards into the work that I do. So that's probably about 93 seconds.
A little bit more than 90 probably, but really, really great. I just want to say hello to Nick Blanchard, who's joining us. Okay, so that's your background. So let's dive straight into it. Paul, what is the Devil's Triangle?
Oh, it's a fabulous thing. But well, it isn't fabulous, it's a horrible thing. It just depends on your perspective. So you've got a triangle, right? Okay. Down one side, we have procrastination. Down the other side, we have perfectionism. And across the bottom, we've got paralysis or overwhelm. And the reason I've sort of used these three words is these are three of the biggest blocks that people talk to me about. Oh, I can't get this thing started, Paul, because I'm procrastinating. Or Paul, I really want to, launch this new business, but the website's not perfect. It's a bit of text that's kind of, and that picture's just not quite right. It's 1 centimeter. I'm a perfectionist. Or Paul, I've got to talk on social media. I've got to do a website. I've got to go. I've got to write some content. I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, and I've got to start an email list, and I've got to do a funnel. What's a funnel? Paul, it's just too much. There's overwhelm. Now, why do I use 3 P's rather than sort of like, O for overwhelm? That would make pop. And that's not very menacing, very threatening, very scary. Whereas the Devil's Triangle, it conjures up something. It's a bit like the Devil's Punch Bowl just outside of Portsmouth, Southampton, which is like I think it must have been like a meteor strike, because it literally, from a distance, it looks like somebody's taken a scoop and scooped a bowl shape out of the earth with these steep sides on one side. So that's where that's the kind of the euphemism is for these things. And what I do is I help people follow the streams back to the source of these procrastination, perfection, whatever it is that's holding them back.
So it's the Devil's Triangle, 3 elements. Can you just talk us through that? Okay,
so procrastination. Now, when I say procrastination, I'm not talking about you've just had your dinner and you're looking at the dishes and go, oh, leave the dishes, do them tomorrow. I'm not talking about that kind of procrastination. I'm talking about the procrastination where you have to make 5 sales calls today, but you don't do it. And you get busy tidying your desk or doing some work on Facebook or Instagram. Basically, you're scrolling and doing everything except making those 5 sales calls. And you should make the sales calls, and you need to make the sales calls, but suddenly moving your desk around becomes way more important than making those calls. And we're procrastinating over them, and you don't know why. It's a really bizarre scenario that you have to do this thing, but you don't do it and you can't get yourself to do it. So where I come in is I find out what it is that's stopping you. It could be, it's usually something like, fear of failure, fear of success, being scared of talking to people. It's amazing how people will go and sit in a coffee shop and talk to strangers around a table at a coffee shop when you're allowed to do that kind of thing. Yet they seem to think that whenever they make a sales call, there's this person at the other end of the phone that's dressed like an ogre, that's 18 foot tall, got massive fangs, and he's going to scream and shout at them down the line. Well, yeah, that may happen once in every 100 calls, but most people are quite reasonable, even if they don't want to talk to you, but we still don't make the calls. So my job in that particular circumstance is to find out what's going on and to remove the block.
Okay, but let's just go back to the triangle for the moment.
Okay.
So we've got maybe one element of it as procrastination, which you've explained beautifully. So it's not about not doing the dishes, but it is about maybe if you're a business owner, not making those sales calls that you need to. What would be holding up on the other 2 sides of the triangle?
Okay, so the other side, you've got perfectionism.
Right.
And this is similar to procrastination, but different. You're procrastinating, but in a different way. And what's happening is you want to, let me give another example. Okay, you want to start a side hustle. So you're working in the corporate world and you want to start a little sideline based on your skills from the corporate world. And you've built the website, you've got all your branding sorted out, you've got your course material, say, ready to go, but you haven't launched. You say, right, I'm going to launch on the 1st of August. The 1st of August comes and you can't launch because you just realized that your business cards have got the logos the wrong color. So we say, okay, we'll go 1st of September, and we get the business card sorted out, and we come to the 1st of September, and you realize that your website is missing what you think is an essential piece of kit, like I don't know, a call to action or a photograph or something. And so we go beyond September, and this goes on and on and on because something isn't perfect. This thing just isn't quite right, and I can't put it out there because I'm a perfectionist, and so it's got to look perfect before I can do it. Now, we both know that perfection doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think that perfection exists, and they use, but it doesn't exist. And what it is basically is we're putting off something that needs to be done, and this is our excuse, our reason for not doing it because it's just not quite right.
Right. So we're using the fact that it's not right to actually stop us taking that next all-important step.
Absolutely.
So we've got one side of the triangle that is sort of like working away, maybe on a subconscious level, where we're not doing what we've got to do. And then we've got something that we're saying, I'm not going to do that because it's not perfect, it's not right. And what's holding up the other side of the triangle, this devil's triangle?
At the base, we've got paralysis or overwhelm. And this is like completely, again, it's a kind of procrastination, but it's coming from a different perspective. It's like rather than being perfect or not wanting to do something, there's just too much to do. And again, so using the example of launching a side hustle, it's like, oh my God, I've got the website to launch. I've got to get some business cards printed. I need to set out my Facebook page. I need to get on LinkedIn, but I can't go on LinkedIn because people from the corporate world might see me on LinkedIn. So how am I going to deal with that? I've got to write some content. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And basically what we're doing is we're building this picture of every single thing we think we need to do. And because this list, this mountain is so huge, it's bigger than Everest, we don't actually start the thing because we don't know where to start. There's just too much. And it's, well, do I do this first or this first or this first?
Yeah, so it goes into overwhelm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it goes into overwhelm, and that keeps you stuck. So why does this affect entrepreneurs or business owners so much?
Because in a lot of cases, business owners are doing pretty much everything themselves. They are one-person bands or solopreneurs is a popular phrase right now. And we are the face of our business. We are the engine behind our business. We are the innovator behind our business. So there are lots of us in the business. And unfortunately, that gives us lots of excuses not to do certain things. Like, again, making the 5 sales calls, we can build up this massive wall of stuff that gets in the way of us making the calls. And it can be for a variety of reasons, but it affects us as entrepreneurs because when you're working for a company, you work from roughly, 9 to 5, 9 to 7, whatever, and somebody else goes, right, okay, Paul, here's your list of stuff for to do today. I want you to get that report on the McPherson's done. I want you to do this, do this, do this, do this. I want it all by Friday, 7 o'clock. So you know what you've got to do. You've been given tasks and you know your kind of area of responsibility. So in that sense, even though you hate working there, you've got a boundary and you've got a list of things that's been given to you. You've been given tasks. When we're working for ourselves, that task list can seem to be endless. Yeah. And also there's no boundary.
Yeah.
There's nobody saying to you, Paul, I want you to make those 5 sales calls today, or you're out, or you lose 10% of your salary, or you have an interview with the boss. There isn't that impetus to get that thing done. And also it's a lot easier when you're working for yourself to make excuses. Well, I can't do it today because I've got to get the website sorted out. I can't do it today because my grandma's not feeling well, or I can't do it today because I've got to go and take the dogs to the vets and I've got to mow the lawn and this and that and the other. So it's very easy when we are running a business to make excuses because we can't face, for whatever reason, the thing that needs to be done.
Right. And why? And I mean, why is it? Do you know why? Or can you tell us why that when we're in that corporate world, even though we may have to do things that we feel uncomfortable with, that are out, you know, they're outside our comfort zone, they're new things, but we still get it done? And what's the difference when we work for ourselves? What's that thing that doesn't translate across? Is it just the fact that we haven't got somebody over us saying, if you don't do this, X will be? That's the repercussions of it.
I actually think that is a huge part of it, because when you're in the corporate world, if you don't make those 10 or 20 sales calls you've got to make today, someone will notice.
Yeah.
Like if you, I'm not saying your viewers do, but say you work in a call center, a contact center, every single thing you do is monitored. The calls, the quality of the calls, when you go to the loo, when you get a coffee, it is monitored right down to the second almost. When we're a step above that, even though it looks like we're not being monitored so closely, we still are. If I don't get that report in by Friday at 9 o'clock, what's going to happen? My boss is going to go, Paul, I specifically told you I wanted that report in by 9 o'clock. It's now 9:35. Where's my bloody report? So you've got to go to your boss and you've got to come up with an excuse or a reason, some way to justify not doing that report. And if you can't justify it in any kind of way that your boss believes you, he's going to go, you know what, Paul, I'm really disappointed in you. I thought you were better than this. You know, you've really let me down. So they don't even have to threaten to sack you everything. They can just give you this, how can I put it? They can demean you. They can make you feel this tall. And that hurts. That's really, really painful. And worse, I mean, I know this shouldn't really happen today, but it still happens where the boss can get you in front of a group of your peers and then pull you down, like a team meeting. Yeah, okay, right. Okay, Michelle, well done. Thanks for that report. Peter, great job. David, excellent. Andrew, perfect. Paul, I'm really disappointed. Paul, you still haven't got that report. Do you want to go to that meeting knowing that your boss is going to pull you down in front of all your peers? Of course you don't. So you're going to do whatever you need to do, even if the report is shoddy, even if it's not your best work, you're still going to get that report done.
Yeah.
When you're working for yourself, there isn't that. There isn't a boss that's going to put you in front of a meeting and rip you to shreds. There isn't a boss who can threaten to sack you. And I think that's the massive, massive difference.
So why do you think that when we move into working for ourselves, and an awful lot of entrepreneurs that I speak to say they much prefer working for themselves than going back into the corporate world, why do you think they self-sabotage that opportunity? Because most people want to do a business that they love. They've got a gift that they want to get out into the world. They want to help and serve people. So why are they sabotaging themselves?
I think one of the biggest issues is a lot of people go into business for themselves with their eyes wide shut. They have no real idea of how difficult and how challenging running a business on your own can be. Like, again, going back to the corporate world, you've got an accounts department, you've got a marketing department, you've got a sales department, you've got a fulfillment department, you've got a creative team, and so on and so forth. When you're working for yourself, you are all of those departments. So you have to do all of that, or you've got to contract it out. And I think when people first go into business, that can be a huge shock. And a lot of people in business don't have clear goals. They don't have a clear sense of direction. They've got this great gift. They've got this great idea. They've got this great thing. But imagine you've got two boxes. So on this side, this is your doing the thing. Like, say I'm a coach. So for me, my box is I'm coaching my clients. Right. That's box one. Box two is the admin, it's doing my accounts, it's all of the business side of running a business. And the problem a lot of people face in business is that they spend a lot of time on this box because that's what they love doing, but they ignore this box, or they try and like push it out the way because we don't want to think about that box. box because it's painful. And the solution is to make both of these boxes equally important. And in fact, in some cases, you need to make this box more important than the other box.
Right.
Yeah.
And if, so is the answer then, or potential answer, to say, okay, I'm going to start a side hustle while I'm still working and getting paid, because actually the fear factor is then taken away. Because if it doesn't work out, or if I'm not 100% sure of the next best step to take, I'm still working and getting a revenue coming in. Of course, that doesn't help people who find themselves in a situation where they're being made redundant or where they've just taken that leap. But is that a potential solution? So when someone gets stuck, how do you move them forward? How do you get them off that sort of like plateau of being stuck and get them moving forward? So they are taking, you know, purposeful action.
Right. So let's talk about the side hustle. The side hustle can have exactly the same problems as people that are already in business, because like we said, you could be, you know, ready, aim, and not fire. So it could be ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim, because this isn't right, that isn't right, I don't have time, I've got to take the dogs to the vets. And so we don't carve out the time to work on the side hustle. We talk to people about it, we dream about it, we get some, you know, some books about running a business and the thing we want to do, but we don't actually make a start. Or if we do make a start, we don't give it a full blast. If you're already running a business, there's a couple of things you can do. First of all, give yourself strict deadlines. Well, no, actually go back a step. Have you got a goal? Okay, I want to run a business and I want to help people as a coach or as a mechanic or as whatever. And so people start a business, but they don't have any clear goals. They may say, well, I need to kind of cover my bills. Right, okay, well, is that 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000? A month, a week, a year? What do you need? And then you have to break that down into what do I need to do today? Now that might be making the 5 sales calls.
Yeah.
So now what we need to say is, right, okay, how do I get myself to make those sales calls? Well, if the problem is based on something from the past, I'll come back to that in a second. One thing you can do practically is time block. There's 2 ways to do it. Right, okay, I want to make these 5 sales calls. I really don't like making sales calls, so I'm going to make that the first thing I do. So when I start work today at 8:30, I'm going to pick up the phone, metaphorically speaking, and I'm going to make those 5 calls. So they're done, they're dusted, they're out the way. That's one way of doing it. And not allowing yourself to do anything else. And give yourself a little reward. So if you enjoy going onto Facebook, for example, you make that your little reward. So if I make those 5 sales calls between 8:30 and 9:30, I can have 10 minutes on Facebook at 9:30. If you don't hit those 5 sales calls by 9:30, you don't get to play on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is give yourself deadlines. Now, I must get this done by 10:30 or 2:30. All right, I can do it between 10:30 and 12:30. That's what I'm going to do those 5 sales calls between that time there and get them done. If the problem is something that's in your subconscious mind, you may not know this, the way to figure this out is to actually set some time aside, and one way you can journal. You get your book, get your journal, get your pen, and you write down across the top, why am I not making these 5 sales calls? What's stopping me? And then you start writing. Now, if you say to me, Paul, I don't know what to write, you write, I don't know what to write. And you keep writing, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write. And then eventually, after 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes, you're frightened of talking to people when you're trying to sell something. Or it could be, I hate selling, or I don't enjoy the sales process. It could be anything. Okay, well, those are 3 of the typical things. And then just keep talking in writing. Okay, why am I frightened of calling people? You know, I can talk to Paul, I can talk to Carole. So why can't I make these sales calls? I'm frightened people are going to reject me. What makes you think people are going to reject you? Well, because I'm not very good at this. Right. What makes you think? Do you see where I'm going with this? Yeah.
Yeah,
You keep
absolutely.
looking for all the reasons why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because remember what I said earlier on, why is an excuse word. So these are all excuses. Yeah. Yes, people are going to say no. You could ring 100 people and 95 of them might well say no. But the question you've got to ask yourself is, how many people do I need to say yes? So let's say you're selling a thing for £100, an argument's sake, and you want to sell 5 of them a week. So you need to one person every single day to say yes. So what we need to do is we need to look for no's. So you just pick up the phone and go, "Hi, Paul, I'm selling a thing for £100. Would you like one?" "No, thank you." "Hi, Michelle, I'm selling a thing for £100. Would you like one?" "No, thank you." And you keep doing that. And then out of the 100 people, "Oh, tell me more. Can I have one? How do I order it?" So you need to talk to 37 people today, because that was it. It was 37 calls, and the 38th person said, "Yes, please." So now you've got a target. So tomorrow I need to make 38 calls, and I know that one person is going to say yes. Now you make those 38 calls, one person might say yes, 2 people might say yes, or nobody says yes. So next day, and you carry on and you carry on and you carry on. So you need to know what your targets are. And then
I think knowing your targets is really, really important. I think also understanding your clients and how you show up in the world as well, because selling is the fastest way to get a client. But a lot of other activities that you do are long-term strategies, so they take time. But what about, how can you sort of like shift yourself? Because I always think like having an accountability coach or an accountability buddy is really helpful, because it's a little bit like going back into the corporate world. You've got to turn up and say to somebody, "I haven't done this." And although it's not going to be, you're going to lose your job or it's going to affect your pay, it's still that uncomfortableness of having to show up and say to somebody, "I said I was going to do that and I haven't done it." So what other practical things could you do?
An accountability partner is great, and I've got one. We've been working together for a couple of years, but it's not the be all and end all, because I've heard of people. I mean, I was in a group last year, and we set up this accountability pod. And the very first meeting, one of the people from the accountability pod said, "I can't make this meeting."
Yeah, but that's okay, because
but then the next week she couldn't make the meeting, and then the next week. So even being part of an accountability group was too much for this particular person. We have to get to the root cause, what it is that's stopping us from doing the things. I mean, having a strategy, having a plan, knowing your ideal client, all of these things are really, really important. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to bring money into your world is you talking to someone one-to-one and saying, "Would you like my thing?"
Well, I think you can do it different ways these days. I think you're absolutely right. You can definitely do it through talking, but there are an awful lot of people who sell on social media by creating great content, adding value, and turning up and showing up every single day.
I completely agree. And that's what I do. But writing a post doesn't sell anything, because somebody still has to contact you and go, "Really great post, Paul. Tell me more." And you still have to talk to that person, unless you're selling a physical
not necessarily thing. I mean, I've just sold one of my programs, didn't speak to anyone, did it all through social media. But what I was doing was I had been showing up consistently. I'd been doing my videos. I had been giving lots of great value. And then I started talking about my program so that people were aware that it was on. But I didn't have to talk to people. They self-selected themselves to go on it. But there are certain things that I did to make sure, like I shared testimonials, I shared case studies, because I was doing videos, people get to know me. But I didn't have to pick the phone up and speak to them. Now, I don't have a problem speaking to people on the phone, but I do think I think there are other ways that you can get people to buy. But expecting someone who doesn't know you at all and just comes across you on social media for them to buy is probably not going to work. You've still got to have that know, like, and trust.
Absolutely, yeah. And you were still selling to people though, in the same, okay, you weren't talking to them face to face like we are now.
Yeah.
You were going live and go, hi, my name's Carole. I do this, 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 and this, and here's a testimonial. And you're doing that, and you're doing that consistently.
Yeah.
And we have to do, so using the phone call is a metaphor. Whatever it is you need to do to sell your thing, you need to do it. So if you need to go live every single day, you must go live every single day.
Yeah.
And we talked about accountability and boundaries and schedules and planning. You have to do all of that, because there isn't a knight in shining white armor, or there isn't Wonder Woman in the other corner that's going to come and go, stand out the way, Carole. I will do this for you. Hello, you need to talk to Carole because she's amazing. No, there isn't anybody that's going to do that for us. We have to do this ourselves. And we can make whatever excuse in the world we like. Yeah, aliens have just landed on the moon. I've got to fly over there and sort them out. That doesn't get the thing done. And what we need to do is we need to figure out what it is that's stopping us from getting the thing done. So it could be something on that triangle. I need to trace the stream back to the root cause. So an example, let's say you use a side hustle as an example. You want to start a side hustle and you've got everything ready, but you don't launch it. And it could be, like this happened to one of my clients, is that when we got talking, we found out that when she was very, very small, her parents ran a business and the parents' business went bankrupt and the bailiffs came round. And one of the things they took was this little kiddie's bicycle. Now, my client had been pestering her family for years to get a bicycle. She got one for that Christmas, and she equated the bailiffs coming with her asking for the bicycle. So the bankruptcy was her fault.
Right.
Of course it wasn't. Buying a bicycle wasn't, it might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but it wasn't the thing. It was probably all kinds of different business reasons, business decisions. And that's what had happened. But my client wouldn't launch the business because she had this thing rooted in her subconscious mind that, oh, if I start a business, I'll go bankrupt and I'll have the bailiffs coming around and they'll take my kids' toys. And so we need to find out what it is, where the link is. You need to sort of, imagine you're an explorer and you're in some continent, you want to find the source of this river. So you follow the stream and the stream leads to a river, and you follow the river upstream and you come to the lake and you found the source of the lake. We need the source of the river, rather. You need to find the source of the thing that's stopping you. You need to identify and then remove all the baggages associated with that. And it's often the stupidest, most ridiculous thing you can imagine. It comes from, a boss in the past who's told you, oh, Paul, look at this report. It's completely, what's this? It's horrible. You're hopeless. This is the crappiest, worst report I've ever seen. Go and do it again. They say, rip it up in front of you and, wasting my time, Paul, go away. It could be something as simple as that, as having a really nasty boss who could always put you down. And that stops you from thinking, well, I really want to do this thing, but I can't because I'm hopeless, because I've never been able to do anything right. Especially if we go, our parents generally love us and care for us, but we nurture our kids a lot of the time in the wrong way, insofar as we say no way more often than we say yes. No, you can't do this. No, you can't. Oh, that's dangerous. That's too expensive. No, you can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do that. And so we get told no an awful lot. And sadly, some of our parents say, no, Paul, you're too lazy. You're too stupid. You're too tall. You're too round. You're too square. You're too whatever. And this gets registered in our psyche as, no, I can't do anything. So we fit into a corporate world because, I can coast along.
Yeah.
But as long as I coast and do what's asked of me, I still get paid at the end of the month. Yeah. Whereas you and I both know that if we coast along in business, it's going to go like that, because you can't coast in business. But in a job where you're paid a salary, of course you can coast. You do the MED, the minimum effective dose. Yeah. You do the minimum you can get away with that keeps you survival.
Well, does everyone do that though in the corporate world? I mean, I was a high achiever in the corporate world.
No, not at all. No, of course not. It's just an example. But if you think about it, it's the 80-20 rule. You've probably got 10 who do less than the minimum, and they're usually the ones that get booted out. You've got 80% or 90% that do more or less the minimum they can get away with. And then you've got the 10 to 20% who are the high flyers, the ones that want to get promoted or go to a different job at a higher salary. They're the ones that are thriving and surviving and doing it. So there's a whole mix, but the vast majority of average people in the middle are the ones that, you know, yeah, well, maybe that kind of person. Okay. Because obviously we're all different, but if you look at any big business and you get people that are in that kind of area, which is why I used the call center reference earlier on, because in the call center, contact center, you've got no room not to do your best because you're out, because every single thing you're doing is monitored in the contact center. So if your calls aren't great, you'll get retrained. If they're still not great, you'll get retrained. And third time, if they're still not great, you're probably out.
And I suppose in different, like in my last corporate role, they were actuaries, and they were the largest actuarial consultancy in the world. And the level of excellence was incredibly high. And I suppose that's where it's slightly different, because they only took the very best people who came from the best universities that had or if they were not coming straight from university, but from another company, had a really good sort of like pedigree. Their background was really good. But then I suppose what happens is you get a slightly different environment where it's actually quite competitive and it can be quite toxic as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there are firms that have the money behind them to pick the cream of the crop. Like your big investment banks, for example. You know, you can't get into an investment bank these days unless you've been to Oxbridge or you've got, you know, a first, two firsts and an MBA and God knows what else. So they will pick the cream of the crop. But again, if you think about it, that's the top, 1 or 2% of big companies in the world that can do that. The rest of the companies will obviously try and get the best. But in some cases, the best isn't available. So they can only pick from like the second best or the third best or the fourth tier. And in a lot of the other companies, you're going to get that mix. But I would even argue that in a company where they've got the best of the best, you're still going to have a percentage who are the high achievers. I want to be a managing director of this company in 20 years, or I want to go and start my own company, be managing director of my own company. And you're going to get the massive, 80% of that company, the ones that, yes, they're great, they're good, they've got the qualification, but they're still going to be coasting. They're going to be coasting at a higher level, but they're still going to be coasting because of the stress and the anxiety and the worry and the competition. And they're going to get to a stage where, look, I can't physically do anymore because I keep getting beaten. I've reached my ceiling, so I'm just going to coast along at my ceiling. And they're going to be way up here, but they're still going to be coasting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
And some will be dipping because they just can't take it. They can't take the constant competition, the constant, stress and anxiety that somebody's going to find out that they're not the best of the best of the best, and they're going to get booted.
So how do you get and stay motivated in that scenario?
It's like in every scenario, you have to have a dream that you turn into a goal and that you break down into, annual, monthly, weekly, daily tasks, little tiny things you can do every single day. And again, using the metaphor of calls, it's making 5 calls a day or going live and doing a post a day, whatever it is, but having those tasks that help you and seeing the end result and enjoying the journey. I mean, for a lot of people, I would never survive in a world like that where you've got the cream of the crop and it's constant, because that's just not me. I'm not one of these people that's going to be fighting tooth and nail to try and stay at the top of the pack in a corporate world. You've got some people that thrive on that. Your Gordon Geckos of the world, people that just love they would be generals. If we lived in an era where you had more people in the army than doing anything else, these would be the people that were the lieutenants and the captains and the majors that wanted to be a general one day. So the constant combat, the constant fighting and doing what they need to do, that's their world. And a lot of people like that kind of thing. But there are a lot of people like me that go, no, I don't want that. That's too much hassle. That's too much stress, which is why a lot of people will stay in that world to make a lot of money,
Yeah.
And then they'll leave it and go do something like go travel around the world or start a little business or go become a gardener, because they've made their money in this top trench. Yeah? And then they say, right, I've had enough of that. I'm going to have a heart attack soon. So I'm going to quit and go and do what I love.
Right. So how do you get to stay then motivated?
You've got to have a goal, a desire, a dream, something that you've got to wake up in the morning, and instead of going, oh God, no, I've got to face all that hassle at work today, it's, oh, I'm getting up in the morning because in 5 years' time, I'm going to start a charity, or in 5 years' time, I'll be able to quit this business and go and set up that Airbnb in Scotland, or I'm going to be able to start a family, move the entire family and travel around the world. You know, or I'm going to be able to stop, buy that castle, renovate it, whatever thing is. Yeah. Or for some people, it could be, well, I want to make £100 million. Okay, well, it's going to take me 40 years to make £100 million, and I've got to make, £10 million a year, whatever. So how do I do that? Right, I've got to do this, and this. And they are the ones that are going to be right at the top. And they're the ones that are going to be pushing. And they get up every morning thinking, right, today I can make £1 million. Or today I can make £500,000. I'm going to do this and this and this. Or I'm going to get that really big client that's going to bring in £20 million into the company, and that will get me a massive bonus at Christmas. And that's their motivation. But we need to have a thing. Doesn't matter what that thing is. I've just given some extreme examples, but you need to have the thing. You need to have a reason for getting up in the morning and going to a job. Purpose. Yeah, that's what I mean. A reason, a purpose, the same thing. You need to have a thing. Yeah. Getting up and going to work isn't your thing. It's the what do you get from that? What's it leading you towards? What journey are you on? That's the important thing. That's what you need to figure out. Because if you're just going to work for the sake of going to work, that's a rapid way to stress and hypertension and boredom and loss of motivation. We need to have the thing. And that's the same whether you're running a business on your own or working in the corporate world. You need to have that thing, that whatever word you want to use.
Yeah. So your desire and your dream has got to be bigger than your fear. Because if we go back to the devil's triangle are the things that are holding us back. So our dream has got to be bigger than that. Our desire to achieve that has got to be bigger.
I see where you're coming from, and I agree to a certain extent, but my own view is that once you have the dream fixed and you know what you want and you know where you're going, then you're not too worried about fear. You just get on and do it anyway, because you've broken stuff down into small tasks. Again, using the call analogy, I've got to make 5 calls today. So even though I don't like making the calls, even though they used to fill me with dread, I know I'm making these calls now because in 5 years' time, I get this. Yeah. And so you make the calls because you know that's what you need to do to get your thing. So you may still have fear inside you, but you don't have to get over it or go through it or go around it to get the thing done. You just do the thing because the thing leads you to where you want to be.
Yeah, unless that thing is creating the fear that's stopping you.
Yeah, well, that's where we go back to the subconscious thing from the past. We might not want to make the sales call. We've come full circle, kind of. Yeah. So there's the dream. That's what I really want to go to, but I'm being pulled back. I've got this anchor that's weighing me down, that's stopping me from leaving the harbor. And what we need to do is find out what that anchor is and why, what is it so stuck deep in the mud, and then, chop it off, remove it, melt it, evaporate it, explode it, whatever you need to do to get rid of it. That's the critical thing. And once you've done that, you set yourself free to set sail and go off and do your best and get on with it.
Well, Paul, that is fantastic. I've just got one last question for you.
Sure.
So we're just about to go into lockdown again. What's your advice, recommendation, or insights that you can give people, or some tips to get through the next 4 weeks, as we go through this tough time again?
Okay, right. First lockdown, I did everything wrong. I put myself in a really bad place, and it was a bad experience, but I learned from it. So this new lockdown, first of all, what we need to realize is it is nowhere near as restrictive as the first one. Give you an example. In the first one, you're only allowed to go outside to exercise for 30 minutes, and you had to be within 1.5 kilometers of your house or something. This time, as long as you're outside exercising, doesn't matter where you are. but obviously you can't drive to exercise. So you can go out and walk along the seafront or whatever. Get out every single day. Get your backside outside and get in some fresh air. Even if it's raining, getting outside will get you out of the environment and get you some fresh air into your lungs. But also walking is a brilliant way to come up with ideas and that kind of thing, yeah? And work out problems and solutions and challenges. So just get out, that's the first thing. Second thing, if you're on social media for work like you and I are, make sure that you kill your feed. And what I mean is anybody that posts negative stuff, fake news, or just gets angry every 5 seconds, unfollow them.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't hide them, unfollow them. You can still remain friends if they are a friend. Yeah, if they're not really a friend, then I'd block them anyway, but just unfollow them. That's the first thing. Second thing is do not watch the news. Don't read newspapers, don't watch the news, because they're all going to be saying the same thing. The lockdown is good, lockdown is bad, lockdown is indifferent. Okay. And, horrible figures, horrible figures, horrible figures. This person's horrible. This person's horrible. They've made a bad decision. We don't need that. We need to be looking for opportunities. We need to keep our energy levels as high as we possibly can. And tuning into negativity just brings us down. And we don't need that. And not at all. Next thing, and this seems a bit weird, but watch more comedy. Seriously.
Yeah.
If you like stand-up comedy, watch stand-up comedy. If you like watching silly movies, watch silly movies. Yeah. Comedy makes us smile. And when we smile, we feel better. We feel lighter. We feel much more positive. And it's been scientifically proven that laughing and comedy and fun stuff is really, really beneficial to us, especially during this time that's coming up now, during difficult times. Comedy just gets us out of ourselves.
Yeah, it releases chemicals in your head.
Oh yeah, endorphins and all kinds of things. Yeah, the sciencey stuff, yeah. But it's good for us, essentially. Laughing is good, so watch more comedy. And another thing, and this is a two-pronged fork, is stay in touch with people. Especially if you live alone, yeah, then this lockdown can be really bad for us. So stay in contact with people. All you got to do is just send them a text, drop a message on Facebook or whatever, or WhatsApp, and go, hi Carole, how's it going? Hi Paul, how are you doing? You got time for a quick chat? And this will do two things. If they live alone, you're sparking their day, and if you live alone, you're sparking their day up as well. See this whole lockdown period as an opportunity. Even if your business has to shut down for a while, look at it, review your business. How can you, and I hate this word, but I can't think of a better one. How can you pivot something in your business to online? If you sell products, could you start selling those products online, or could you do something differently? Could you start teaching people how to make your products? Paul, why would I want to teach people how to do the thing that I make? Because people won't actually make them. They'll want to see how you do it and think, oh, wow, look at the craftsmanship, look at the skill, look at the dedication, blah, 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 blah. I want one. Yeah. If you're in business where you fix things like you're a plumber, electrician, a carpenter, show people how to do stuff. Share your knowledge, share your expertise, share your experience. People love this. And it's a really good way to, like you said earlier, know, like, and trust. People will say, oh, look at this. He's showing me how he or she does the thing. Yeah. Even if you're an accountant or you think, well, I don't have anything I can share online. No, you can do. You can give people 5 easy tips to sort out your money, or, how to keep your receipts, or here's a quick introduction to one of those accounting bits of software. It can be anything. Yeah. Share your knowledge. It's a really good time to connect with people and go, wow, he's really interested. He's an accountant. I thought all accountants were boring. This guy just told me he does rock climbing at weekends, or she goes skydiving. Tell people about who you are and what you do. It's a really good time to build that connection with your clients and your potential clients. And it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're an actuary or a zoologist, yeah, and everything in between. Telling people who you are and your backstory gets people to know you and to like you and to trust you. And that's the most important thing you can do.
Well, thank you, Paul. They are some great tips, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners will really appreciate that. So if somebody wants to connect with you, Paul, how can they do that?
Okay, carrier pigeon. Send me a carrier pigeon. Alternative, if you've run out of carrier pigeons, you can get me on Facebook as Paul Wilson Mindset Coach. And on LinkedIn, it's the same, Paul Wilson Mindset Coach, because Paul Wilson is a very common name and there's millions of us. I've got about 3 Paul Wilson in my friends group anyway. So Paul Wilson Mindset Coach on Facebook or LinkedIn, that's the best way to find me.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for your time today.
It's been a pleasure.
And
thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Restream, as well, for helping us to go live across all our different platforms. And I will see you again next week with Conversations with Carole. Bye for now, everyone.